think I'm constipated the last 2 days. So I'm gonna be so
Sorry, mic's going up, so
sorry.
keep that.
Yeah.
Test 1 2, Josh Rosenthal. This is Chris at Fox 5. Test 1 2, test 1 2, Josh Rosenthal. This is Chris at Fox 5.
Hey man, I hear you now. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yep. Thank you. The AP just called it. The Virginia voters have approved.
Who just called it? AP?
The Associated Press. Virginia voters approved new U.S. House districts that could aid Democrats in midterm elections. 50.3% yes, 1,311,547 votes, according to the fox5dc.com page.
Okay, let's please keep this hit quick if we can.
Yeah, do what. Yeah, whatever you got to do.
I have to.
I have an Axios reporter right after you. Just give me a scene setter. Tease ahead to your 10 o'clock.
Wait, if you have a reporter set up, do you need me? Can I work on my 10 o'clock report?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can clear you up.
Okay, all right, bye.
All right, bye. All right, no, Josh Rosenthal, you can turn the mic back on. We're not using them. All right, it is 9 o'clock on this Tuesday night. This is the Live Zone Primetime. Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us on this very busy and breaking news Tony P. Tuesday tonight, because we just got word, Tony P., of the results in the Virginia special election. That is going to be our big story tonight. But first and foremost, thank you to everyone joining us right now, whether you're watching on Fox Local, whether you're watching on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page, whether you're watching on fox5dc.com, Tubi, Vizio, all
DC, around the country, wherever you are.
Absolutely. All of those different options. So, Tony P., the big story here in the Commonwealth today was this referendum on a plan to redistrict, and we just got the results in moments ago.
Just went up a little bit.
Right there. This is from fox5dc.com. The yeses have it. This is the ballot measure to add a constitutional amendment to redraw the congressional districts. You see 1,384,000. These results changing in real time. 384,296 yes. 50.7% of the vote, 1,344,422, 49.3% no. So, Tony P., break down for us, if you will, a little bit about what this means.
So, first of all, with the numbers today, it was projected to be pretty tight, not like the governor's race where it was a 15-point victory for Abigail Spanberger. This was projected to be about a 4 to 5 point victory for the yes option. Right now, we're at about 1.4% in the lead, almost 51% of the vote for the yes, and I think we're at 86, 87% of the vote in. So a little bit more to go, mostly in some of those northern VA counties up here in the DC area, so that could be some more of a boost for the yes option, but there could be some outstanding vote in the southwestern part of the state where, of course, there's a lot more Republican voters, and potentially that no vote could still gain a little bit more traction as well. But this vote today is basically about a constitutional amendment that was a part of a vote in the VA state legislature to really talk about redistricting in response to what happened in Texas, where it was started by Governor Abbott and Texas Republicans at the helm or at the whim of President Trump, who basically said, we want to get more seats. I want to be able to have my agenda grow in years 3 and 4 of his administration, because he is a one-term president, limited now because of the non-consecutive 4-year terms. So that was the beginning of this. Texas is where it started. You had members of the Texas state legislature leaving the state a year ago, 2 years ago, to fight it so there wouldn't be a quorum. Then there was a lot of back and forth. The vote eventually happened. There was that redistricting. Some of the courts held it up. But then, as of today, it's going forward. Then you had in California, Governor Gavin Newsom last September put a vote very similar to this on the ballot, and California voters overwhelmingly voted to change the congressional districts in not, again, it isn't for a permanent thing. It's until 2030 in both of these cases. Because what happened in Texas was it was the beginning of what we call midterm redistricting. So redistricting only happens every 10 years usually because of the census. So populations change. That means that more congressional votes get allocated to different states depending on their populations. So for example, Texas has grown, Florida has grown, because a lot of people from California have moved more south. So that usually happens every 10 years to reflect the change in population. However, this was the first time we've seen a mid-term, mid-census redistricting, and then the cascading effect began to happen in parts of the, in more Republican southern states, as well as states like California and Virginia. And that was a major issue in the election for the governor's race, too.
Obviously a very controversial move because some people feel it's an unfair play. Democrats currently control Virginia's General Assembly, had been pushing supporters to vote yes on this measure. Supporters of the gerrymandering plan say it's in response, like you said, to the other states that have done the same thing, even the playing field. Republican critics called this an unfair power grab, encouraged supporters to vote no. Democrats currently hold 6 of Virginia's 11 congressional seats. The new map would likely give them an edge in all but one. Special elections generally have a low voter turnout, but as you can see from the numbers that we put up there, 1.386 million versus 1.349 million. The numbers keep changing live on the air. A sign of the national stakes at play here, Tony P. More than $90 million spent in this fight.
Isn't that crazy?
With much of that money coming from outside Virginia. And honestly, anyone who lives here in the DMV knows exactly what we're talking about, because they have inundated with these political ads with some big names, including former President Barack Obama.
Well, right, and Democrats and supporters of this amendment will say, well, in Texas, they just did it by state legislature vote. They didn't bring it to the voters. In California and Virginia, they did put it on the line. Even though they had majorities in the state assembly, they decided to put this to a vote, and it worked both times. So supporters will say it's not the same as the gerrymandering done in Texas and other states because that was done purely because Republicans have the power in those states. So when looking at this, you can't really take a ton of tea leaves in this case because it's a midterm of a midterm, right? It's kind of in the middle of the midterm season. We're not even in November yet. So I think overall, this is a good victory for Democrats. It was going to be very, very tight. And it looks like based on the trajectory we're on, it's going to be about a 3 to 4 point victory, which is exactly what was in the margin. And this can be an added win for Democrats. But we saw the no vote do pretty well. So the question is this a Virginia question and a Virginia type of issue, or is it around the country when it comes to the issue of gerrymandering? Because the biggest thing is the bipartisan coalition and bipartisan commission that was voted on years ago in the Constitution. So this kind of suspends it for a while, then brings it back in 2030. The question is, will those bipartisan boards be brought back? The law says yes now, and I hope they are brought back. But this was a more retroactive response to what happened in Texas. So yeah. There's a lot of things at play here, but a good solid win for the supporters of this and Democrats tonight. They can take this as a new data point in how they pitch voters going into the real midterms in November.
All right, so I'm just checking some of our YouTube comments right now. Time 49 says, Go Dems, blue wave, Quincy Alexander, the Virginia Supreme Court will throw this out. Just a reminder, you can weigh in the comment section. You can scan that QR code if you are a Virginia voter and you want to chat about what went down today. You can scan that QR code, join the Zoom room, and talk to us all about it. In the meantime, though, we do want to talk more about today's election. We do want to talk more about what comes next. And for that, Axios Richmond reporter Sabrina Moreno, hopefully joining us now live. Sabrina, it's Chris. Can you hear us?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Perfect. I'm going to make sure Tony P can hear you. Hang on 1 second here.
Oh, you have the IFB.
I have the IFB.
Told me to take it out.
Tony P can hear you now.
Yes, I can.
I forgot to turn the speaker back up. The magic of live television, everybody.
I'm like, where am I?
Thank you so much. Obviously, it's been a busy day for you. The results, first and foremost, were you surprised to see how they turned out?
Slightly. I think, in the past month, I have kept telling people this, and I've been talking to lifelong Democrats. I would catch them at the bar, I would catch them out and about at Richmond events, and there were a lot of people who were saying that they were really hesitant about this referendum. Clearly, they were not kind of the majority. Richmond, for example, was a landslide in saying yes to the amendment. And so I think maybe on the ground, some people had those hesitations, but I think we're seeing kind of across Virginia, especially in the bigger localities, it was yes. But up until, the past hour, it really was very neck and neck, and then Fairfax County kind of swept in.
Do you think that Democrats that you've been talking to on the ground view this as a very solid win for the midterms, just another feather in the cap, or do they see some slippage potentially in a situation like this with the numbers being a lot closer than the VA governor's race?
It's hard to say, right? Because I think what we maybe might see more is a long-term impact, but I think the Northern Virginia part really does make sense, right? I mean, that was a massive part of the state that was impacted, by some of the administration's actions, so that blowout makes a lot of sense. But also I think it'll be interesting to see. We've talked to some readers about whether they would feel some kind of way about Northern Virginia maybe representing the area. And readers have said that they're okay with it. But also those are some of our Democratic readers, and they've also said, we are Democrats, so take that with a grain of salt. But we also did see a pretty big pushback in Hanover County, which is a very Republican suburb in the Richmond area, and they're one of the ones that would be swept up into Northern Virginia, like one of those really long kind of new districts. So I think that is where we might see a pretty big pushback. And also, we still have that Supreme Court case to look out for and legal challenges that I'm sure will be ahead.
So, Sabrina, can you just walk us through a little bit of what the immediate next steps are?
Yeah, so the one thing I do want to make sure I clear up, because we've gotten these questions a lot, is that this does not mean that your representative immediately changes, doesn't mean that your district immediately changes,
Yeah.
right? So your representative will still be your representative until somebody is sworn in January. And so, but this map that we have up on the screen right now, that is the map that is kind of up in the air for midterms. What I think we'll kind of be seeing in the immediate future will be a bunch of candidates coming out and more prominently saying, hey, I'm going to campaign for this new district. I think that's probably the most immediate. And then we will also see what the Supreme Court ends up deciding, because they're still weighing that case that tried to block that vote.
So we heard from some voters today across the Commonwealth that some of the language was a little bit confusing on the ballot in terms of what a yes meant and what a no meant. Did you hear any of that from readers or people on the ground today? And what was the confusion for real?
Yes, that was probably, I would say there were two major things that were causing confusion, or prompting a bit of confusion, which would be one, that ballot language saying that, hey, this amendment is to restore fairness in elections. And what people were voting on today was allowing lawmakers to do this mid-decade redraw of the congressional maps temporarily, and then they'll go back to kind of that normal, commission after the 2030 census. But that is a bit different than saying, hey, we're restoring fairness in elections, right? Because what does that really mean? And who doesn't want to restore fairness? Fairness is good. And so I think that was something that a lot of Republicans also pushed back on. There were some Republicans who, tried suing over that language, saying it wasn't neutral. And then on the flip side, which I know you guys were just talking about this, are those mailers, all those text messages. I've gotten text messages and ads with conflicting ads on with Barack Obama. So there was the one for redistricting saying that Barack Obama was for it. I also got text saying that Barack Obama is against this, right? And so I think for the average person, they're like, okay, hold on, what does yes mean? What does no mean? And so those were the top two things that I was hearing from people.
So what reaction do you expect on the national stage at this point? We know a lot of national attention was paid on this race. What does this mean now moving forward to the midterms and what we could see in terms of the balance of power on Capitol Hill?
Yeah, I mean, Virginia definitely is going to be at the center of this because the House is very, very closely divided. Something I'll be looking out for is to see what happens in Florida when they, gavel back in, have that special session about redistricting, to see if what that will mean for the seats that Virginia might add. But I think that there's definitely going to be some pretty big national pushback on, maybe from Republicans. They've already been really ramping up that rhetoric leading up to this election. But from what I've seen so far on social media, Democrats are cheering, right? And so I think what'll be interesting to see what happens with Florida and then what it ultimately means when the midterms actually happen, right? And these districts lean Democratic, or is there something else that's going to pop up? Virginia's always interesting that way. So
as people vote coming up for the actual midterms, is the proposed map that just passed, is that going to be what people are voting on for their new representative, or will it be similar to what they currently have? That's where I've always been a little bit confused, and a lot of folks in Gen Z as well.
Yeah. So that proposed map is, so when, let's say, for example, I'm still going to be in the 4th Congressional District, which is Richmond, right? But then there's a sliver of Richmond that is now going to be in the 5th District. And so people are going to have, and I think that's going to be our next wave of confusion, right? People being confused on which district they're in. And the people running for these districts, they're going to be going for these new districts. And so when we're talking about voting for our representatives in November, we're going to be voting for representatives in our new district. I think that's where the next wave is going to be. But that proposed map was approved by Governor Spanberger, which means that it will be in effect. And the little caveat there when she signed it was this will go into effect if voters say yes to this. And so yes, but I think that's the next wave of confusion, right? Because if people are like, oh, this person running for the 5th district or the 7th district, oh, that wasn't mine, they might get a little bit confused there. But yes, the new proposed map, that is what is going to be in effect for November's midterms.
Got it. And you mentioned the legal challenges that could persist from this. What will those challenges hinge on when voters just change the Constitution, right? So what will be that situation inside the Supreme Court at the state level that they will have to decide on this, potentially?
Some that I'm going to be looking out for, let's say the Supreme Court says, the referendum, the as is, what voters decided is good to go. I can definitely see Republicans appealing that. Something that was interesting is right before I hopped onto this call, we were in that 1% margin. We no longer are anymore. But that would have been another interesting play because in Virginia, if it's within a 1% margin, whoever loses is able to demand a recount. But in Virginia, automatic recounts are not a thing. But that was something I was eyeing ahead of coming on and chatting with you guys, because if it wasn't that 1%, I could see, people from the no side going for that route. But that's kind of out of the question now. So it'll be interesting. But the Supreme Court part will definitely be the first part. Appealing it if Supreme Court says yes. Those are the immediate ones that I can think of.
And you see it mostly on the language of the ballot versus the actual outcome, or do we see it just on the idea of a referendum itself?
It's hard to say. I mean, but because I think all of the above is pretty possible, right? Because we have seen Republicans sue over the language. We've seen Republicans sue over the fact that, this was not done, allegedly was not done lawfully, right? Like they've sued on kind of every single part of this. It's been struck down, then they appeal, and then that's how kind of we got to this latest Supreme Court case where it's weighing a case that wanted to stop the vote from happening in the first place, saying that this was not constitutional. And so they kind of sued on every little part of it, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if they sued on another little part of it that maybe I haven't thought of. And so I don't think we're done with those legal challenges yet by any means.
Got it.
All right, Sabrina Moreno, Axios Richmond reporter, thank you so much for spending some time with us here tonight on the Live Zone Primetime and sharing your expertise on a story that obviously not only impacts the Commonwealth, but also the rest of the country when it comes to the balance of power on Capitol Hill.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Tony P., we also just got a statement from Governor Abigail Spanberger on this redistricting referendum outcome. Released the following statement: Virginia voters have spoken, and tonight they approved a temporary measure to push back against a president who claims he is entitled to more Republican seats in Congress. Virginians watch other states go along with those demands without voter input, and we refuse to let that stand. We responded the right way at the ballot box. She went on to say, I understand the urgency of winning congressional seats as a check on this president, and I look forward to campaigning with candidates across the Commonwealth, working to earn Virginians' trust and their votes. Looking forward, I remain committed to ensuring Virginia's bipartisan redistricting commission gets back to work after the 2030 census and to protecting the process Virginians voted to create.
Right, because now she will be governor until, I think, January of 2030, so right at the beginning of that redistricting. So, of course, there'll need to be, I think, in 2029 at least, some re-upping of that, or the process behind it, the mechanics, to make sure that it's back up and running if the census takes place. I think it takes place mid-year. Then you have, like in 2031, it gets implemented.
So Juan Carlos is in the Zoom room right now. Juan, I'm not sure if you joined to talk about these redistricting results. If so, feel free to throw your camera on. We'd be happy to hear your opinion on the results.
Hear from the people.
Tony P., absolutely.
Yeah, listen, this is impacting the people. We want to hear it not just from me, because I can pontificate here all night. I want to hear what it actually means for voters and citizens.
Yeah,
that are impacted by
Tony
all this.
P., in the meantime, I'm going to show this again 1 second here.
Yeah, our numbers
WHS, if we scroll down just a little bit, just to see sort of how the individual counties voted, you see that southwestern portion of Virginia where there was heavy early turnout. I know Democrats were relying on the day of turnout in order, because the early ballots were going towards no.
Right,
but you can see how
here.
You can see how those Northern Virginia counties went on this map right now.
What you want to watch, so being someone who went to Richmond for 4 years, University of Richmond, and also was involved in politics down there, you want to look right here at Chesterfield County. So that's always a swing county in the state. It went very heavy for Abigail Spanberger last election. It was very, very close between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. That was one of the counties that I saw in 2016 and 2024 that really made me think that Donald Trump was going to win election and re-election, is counties like this. This is suburban Richmond. This is on the border of kind of like the more affluent suburbs in that Richmond area. Look at this, 53 to 46 roughly. Again, 9,000 raw vote difference, but a solid percentage win for the yes vote. A little bit less in the governor's race, but still a victory. And you look at Henrico County, very much Richmond, part of Richmond suburbs. This is basically double that vote, 62 to 37. Then looking a little bit further, this one, of course, we're talking about Hanover County. With Sabrina, we talked about that county being part of now Northern Virginia, right? Well, this vote, where is it, was 66 to 33. That's a very big difference.
Huge.
That's almost Donald Trump 2024 territory. So when you think about what this could have for an impact in the congressional districts, you're going to have maybe some of these more blue districts that are converted could be closer overall, with Hanover County taking a very, very big stake in at least one or two of those new counties proposed.
And Tony, I know we talked yesterday with J.D. Spain from the Arlington County
Yes, we
Board,
did.
but we were talking about what Hakeem Jeffries had said, which is that he thought this vote would be close
Right.
because Virginia is still purple. Is that the takeaway that you have looking at these results on this map right now?
I do, because this vote is close. It's going to be 3 or 4 points, right? We saw with Ralph Northam in 2017, a blowout win against Ed Gillespie. Then you saw 2021, basically the same type of numbers, 1.5%, Terry McAuliffe and former Governor Glenn Youngkin, and he won that race. So this means that in 2030, you could see a potentially closer governor's race, depending on how Abigail Spanberger governs in the years ahead, as well as with national political tectonic movements, right? But this really makes it clear that Virginia is still on certain issues, right? Because now, some of the confusion we saw with voters, could some of these votes have changed depending on if things were a little bit clearer, right? That's one piece to look at, probably very negligible though. But when looking overall at the flow of the state, how it votes, there are a lot of independent voters that are center-left or more independent that may have voted against this because of the bipartisan nature of this. So I think this might just be a kind of vote by vote context, but it goes to show you that, again, governors shift in this state pretty often, and you also see a vote like this. So there is something to be said here. There has been also a percentage drop in approval for Governor Spanberger in the last few months because some folks feel that she hasn't been as moderate as she said she was going to be. So potentially that could have been at play here, a check on her political power maybe. But again, pretty negligible in my opinion. That could have been a factor, but I'm not sure totally about how large that is.
Well, just a reminder, we appreciate everyone out there.
Sorry, I mean to rant.
No, Tony P., this is why I pay you. This is why I keep you around.
That's all?
Shout out to everyone in not only the YouTube comment section,
Yes.
but also weighing in the Zoom room.
Now this shocks
Killer
me here.
B2050 says it's hilarious as hell that Republicans were against redistricting in Virginia, but fine with it in Texas at the same time.
Yeah.
WHS in the Zoom room, I appreciate you very much for weighing in. Not a good map, they say. Show the map that NBC is showing. I'm not sure if you know how TV news works,
Yes.
but we are Fox, so
Yes,
we're not going to
we're
show
not
the map
NBC.
that NBC is showing.
But-
Right now, Jim Loke has wandered
Yes, he is.
over to the area. Jim, we'll bring your expertise.
talk.
We're going to share Tony's mic
There we
with
go.
you,
Oh,
though, but we're gonna share your expertise now. I know you talked to some lawmakers about this referendum, and some of them were a little testy about it.
Well, I think what we get. I'm gonna grab this up
yeah,
here.
yeah.
I'll spare you from being the.
It's like,
Yeah. No, I think in the grand scheme of things, it was clearly down the party line here. You know, the Democrats thought that this is the way to do it. Republicans were certainly felt the opposite. I talked with Don Scott last night, who's the Speaker of the House for Virginia, Democrat, obviously. And I played a clip of Jason Miyares, the former Attorney General, who
Right.
came on Final Five last week and played up that role. He believed that this was rigging the election in favor of the Democrats. He had said, and this has been the line from him and former Governor Youngkin and a lot of Republicans, was we didn't like them. Their line was, we didn't like the maps because it was 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, but it was fair because of that bipartisan redistricting board that was put into place back in 2020. It passed overwhelmingly back in 2020.
Right.
But when I played that for Don Scott, he goes, hey, look, voters can change their minds. And I think that's what Democrats, that's the line they're going to say right now is, hey, look, yeah, voters said they wanted to see these this bipartisan commission draw the maps up. But the reality is they say this is desperate times calling for desperate measures. They do reset in 2030. But I think what's going to be interesting, and I'm going to talk with Dan Helmer tonight on the Final Five at 11:30. He's currently one of the top Democrats in the House of Delegates. He's running for Congress in one of these new districts. imagine this: if you are one of these politicians running in a brand new district, knowing full well that in 2 election cycles that's going away, I think it's fair for voters to be skeptical. And for Republicans to be skeptical about, are you going to abide by that? Because by and large, these should be going back to what they were, or at least a new bipartisan independent map drawn in 2030. So I think that's the question a lot of people have tonight.
Now, with this vote,
Go ahead. You can take it back.
Now, with this vote, do you feel that maybe there could be a backlash in future elections, especially for the governor's race, given this distance in vote?
But look at in 2000. No, I take that back. 2010.
Yeah.
Republicans had control. This is before that bipartisan redistricting panel. It was overwhelmingly in favor of Republicans back then. That was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see that, but it's certainly. I think you're going to see a lot of ads playing this up. But this changes the districts for the congressional level, not on the state level. And Democrats, as we saw, they won a lot of seats in the House of Delegates last time around. By the way, Chris, you pulled this one up here, this Virginia one. I do believe this map. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had the biggest turnout. They had the biggest turnout in the referendum in terms of early voting. And that is represented by, I think, Rob Whitman represents this district, who is a Republican. Democrats have clearly targeted that. And I think it's interesting to see it's tight, but the yeas have it.
Interesting. Now, do you think Democrats will take this as a victory for them, a feather in the cap?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way that you're not going to see them do that victory map. They're seeing this not just as a victory over unfair maps. They see this as a victory over Donald Trump tonight.
Got it.
And that's by and large. I mean, let's be honest. That's what it's like right now. That's if the Democrats have a win, it's not a win on the local level. It's not a win on the state level. They're going to see all of this as a win against Donald Trump.
It's all national. And do you see that there could be some Supreme Court intervention here, or are some of the cases not so strong?
Well, the Virginia Supreme Court has to get involved here, but remember the Supreme Court on the federal level has paved the way for a lot of these maps to be redrawn, favoring Republicans. So I think we'll see where it goes from there.
Interesting. Because I think the biggest thing is this distance is a little bit surprising, given the governor's race being 14, 15 points. Is that a reflection on Governor Spanberger, maybe, or other items?
It could be a little bit, but I think by and large, I don't think that's going to be. Look, Republicans had a very good run over the last couple of months. Every time a Democratic delegate advanced a bill to raise a tax, and there were a lot of them, they were able to paint this as Spanberger wants to raise your taxes. Well, the reality is that's not how legislation works. Governors don't propose legislation. The House did not pass any of these tax increases. Therefore, Spanberger never signed any of these tax increases. But I think you didn't see a big pushback from the Spanberger administration at the time, and they sort of let this narrative grow and grow and grow. You had some very powerful Republican voices. Ben Domenech from the Federalist, his wife Meghan McCain. They were, I think McCain had some very unflattering and really inappropriate ways to describe the governor. And I think it really points to the relevance of Abigail Spanberger as governor and the irrelevance of Meghan McCain as a former host of The View.
Jim Loke, thank you so much for crashing this party and lending your expertise. You can catch him Final Five right here, Fox Local, coming up at 11:30. Josh Rosenthal continuing our coverage tonight right here on Fox Local as well, live at 10 and 11. Exactly. What else you got? Anything?
No, we've got James Waukesha coming up on the 10 o'clock news tonight, so we'll talk with him and get his reaction. Yep.
So you can continue to follow this story. We are going to take a quick break, leave you with this live picture from the U.S. Capitol. The breaking news, though, Virginia voters have approved the redistricting plan. We have a lot more we want to get to tonight here on the Live Zone Primetime, including, Tony P., something I'm super excited about.
Yes.
We are talking about a major blast from the past. The American Gladiators are back, Tony P., and one of them has hometown ties. We are going to talk to Neon coming up in our next half hour. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Test 1 2, test 1 2. This is Chris at Fox 5. Neon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good. All right, I just want to make sure I get this right. Is it Allende?
Yes, Allende.
Allende. Thank you so much. All right, you're coming up in about 1:30.
Sounds good.
Thank you for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Tuesday night. If you are just joining us in our second half hour, the breaking news that we just got at the top of the hour, Virginia voters have approved a plan, a redistricting plan that would redraw the congressional districts in the state. It was close, but the yays had it. Just about 51%, Tony P. 51.4%.
Yep, to 48.6.
To 48.6%. Those
3%.
numbers coming in live. We will keep an eye on them. We will keep chatting all about this. We will bring you any new developments as we get them. In the meantime, though, we did want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about something else pretty exciting, something that takes me back to my childhood, Tony P.
I grew up watching American Gladiators. I've been training for this my entire life, and now it's my time to shine.
Neon doing a great job stopping it, working it side to side. Neon got one out. Oh, Lewis is in balance. Down goes the contender. And he makes a great one.
Tony P., the American Gladiators are back, and this time around, one of them has DMV roots. We are talking about Allende Warren, a.k.a. Neon,
great name,
who is a Silver Spring native, and tonight he joins us live to talk more about his journey to superstardom, being an American Gladiator, his hometown roots, and much, much more. Neon, thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the Live Zone Primetime. A busy night, so I appreciate your patience, but I did want to make sure we got a chance to chat with you.
What's going on, fellas? Thank you guys so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course. First and foremost, shout out for your hometown, will you?
Hey, man, Silver Spring, man. We in the building. Let's go, baby. DMV.
All right. So, first and foremost, how did you end up on American Gladiators, and what has this experience been like so far?
Oh, man, dude, it's been absolutely incredible. I'm super grateful for the opportunity, but it actually came at one of my lowest points where I had almost did a different show and it didn't work out, and I find myself at rock bottom trying to figure things out, and it was a time for me where I really just focused on self-development and self-work and reading a lot more books, figuring out things that I like to do, and really taking my fitness thing seriously. And so one of my boys actually sent me JP, his name is Jocelyn Patterson. I gotta shout him out. That's my boy.
Love that.
He actually sent me the casting call for American Gladiators. It's just like a little flyer on social media, and he also submitted some of my info to them as well. And I ended up hopping on a call with them, killed that interview, hopped on a second call, killed that interview, and I didn't hear anything for a little while. So I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Like, I thought I was the guy for this. But I kept working out, kept staying ready just in case my name is called. And then they hit me up saying, hey, we got a combine coming up. And I'm like, okay, is this the combine that I thought I was supposed to do, 8-9 years ago for the NFL? And so I ended up going out there and doing my thing, and fast forward, here we are. The show just dropped last Friday. We got 3 episodes out, and we're already trending number 4 top shows on Prime Video.
Wow. Now, you mentioned in the promo that you've been watching American Gladiators since you were very, very young. And, of course, you pursued the NFL, things of that nature. Was this always a consideration in your mind? You wanted to do a show like this, or, do kind of like the fitness side of things?
I always kind of knew I was destined for something big. Originally I thought that was the NFL. I've been playing football since I was literally 5 years old, and it started really because of Gladiators. My mom brought me into the room one time to watch the show for the very first time, and it was like Powerball and Breakthrough and Conquer, and I was immediately glued to the screen, and that helped inspire me to play football. And ended up, doing it my entire life, and got to play college at West Virginia State, played high school at Wheaton High School.
Yeah.
Right there in Silver Spring, right on that corner of Randolph Road and Dalewood.
There you go.
And, I had a really close shot at the NFL, man, but I got hurt, man, a couple weeks before the combine, so I never even got a chance to showcase my skills and my talents. And so, but I never really lost that hunger and drive to stay healthy and fit. So, regardless of whatever jobs that I was doing, after I got done with school, fitness was always a thing for me. It was always a priority for me to stay fit, get in the gym, stay active, stay an athlete, because it's just been such the norm for me my entire life. And so I always felt like I was destined to do something big, and I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity and for it coming back around full circle.
So talk to me about the nickname. Was Neon your nickname before you went into this? Was this one that you got to pick yourself? Was it assigned? I mean, American Gladiators has a history of having some of the greatest nicknames of all time.
Neon came about. We actually had a few different name selections, but we kind of ran into a little bit of legalities for other names. But Neon just seemed like the perfect fit, because I've been shining long before the lights showed up, and now the world is just catching on. And so every time I also step into a room, you're going to see this big smile, and I'm going to light up that room and that arena. So, that's kind of like the essence of Neon. It's a positive guy who is, who understands trials and tribulations, and, always, that guy that's able to overcome adversity, and you see that through his play and, the type of character that he is.
Are you shocked by how, again, like years ago there was American Gladiators, a lot of shows then went away, there was a distance in time, now they're back, and this nostalgia era is upon us. Did this shock you at all, and do you see this continuing as a series, as well as other more nostalgic shows continue in the years ahead?
It was definitely shocking to me when I first heard about it, because, it was such a big thing back in the day. And I remember just watching the reruns all the time. Like, I always wanted to watch them with my mom.
Right.
And, but for it to be back now, I mean, this feels like something that is going to be around for a long time. And I think the fans, the people out there who grew up watching the show and loving the show, we're all adults now. We got kids and we got family, we got, well, I don't have any kids, but, a lot of the younger generation, they're adults now, and they have families, and it's going to be a big nostalgic factor, man, for them to get to watch it again, but also to see their young ones being able to watch it for the first time, and who knows what kind of positive impact that could have on them moving forward in life.
Okay, so not to give away any trade secrets, but let's say we put Tony P out there against Neon, okay? He enters the competition.
I might not make it to the next show.
He's in the dojo. So, what would he have to do? What would be the secret to trying to sneak past
I'm
Neon?
also a black belt in karate, by the way, and a brown belt jiu-jitsu. Just going to say.
It doesn't matter if you have all of the Infinity Stones of Thanos, okay? If you step into that ring with me, okay, it might be a little bit of a problem. But no, man, to be able to compete in the Gladiator games, man, you have to be brave, you have to be strong, you have to be fast, and also you got to have heart. You got to have heart. You're going up against some big guys, some big girls. We have an incredible cast who, they've been that they are some people who have been through a lot, and they've been prepared for this moment for a very long time. And even when we didn't really know it, and so. I mean, who knows? I would say maybe, if we come back season 3 or something, season 2, season 3, I would say submit your name and see what happens. You never know. You never know. There's all different types of people that be on the show. So, see what happens.
Chris is already encouraging me to too many bad things and
I
bad
just
ideas.
love volunteering, Tony.
You
P.
always do it yourself. Now, let me ask you this: if you could take us behind the scenes of how this all works, right? What is the process like of getting onboarded into this, doing the filming, being there for all that time, the competitions? What is it like to be a cast member every day behind the scenes?
It's exciting. Honestly, it's exciting.
I can imagine.
Everything about it was just, wow, like I'm really here. I'm really about to do this. Like I'm really a gladiator. I mean, you have a million different cameras in your face. You have this huge arena. You have people, doing your hair. You got makeup. You have these contenders who are, have some incredible stories, man, who've been through so much. I mean, you got people on there that have, waited 17 years for this kind of opportunity.
Right.
Or people that have been through some kind of adversity. I think one of the contenders broke their back at one point, never thought that she'd be able to walk again, but here she is competing on American Gladiators. And it's just an incredible experience to be able to be there and to, contribute to the success of the show.
So you've been in locker rooms with football teams. What is the atmosphere like when you're surrounded by your fellow gladiators? Is there competition between you guys, or are you all kind of encouraging each other and pumping each other up, both physically and mentally?
It's definitely both, because iron sharpens iron. Like me and Mayhem, man, we go back and forth all the time. I mean, even when we're just working out and we're in the gym, we're trying to compete with each other on the bench press. If I do, 315 for 10 reps, he's going to tell me, oh man, that's too light. You got to go up. All right. And we'll just go back and forth like that. But then at the same time, all the gladiators, we're here encouraging each other, and we're all here to showcase our skills and showcase our talents, but also, lift each other up. So it's kind of like one of those things where we know this is a big opportunity for everyone, but, we're making sure we are, lifting as we climb.
What is one thing about the Hollywood streaming experience that you just went through that might surprise a lot of people back home?
Let's see, one thing that would surprise me, the amount of adrenaline that's pumping through your body. Trying not to say anything crazy, right?
Right.
It's like you're on screen, you're being filmed, right?
Right.
Everything's happening all at once.
You gotta control it.
You gotta make sure that you go out there and give it your all. And, I think everybody out there is really just being themselves, and I think that's what makes Gladiators so awesome. Everybody's out there being themselves and having a good time, but also, making sure we get the job done.
All right, well, if people want more Neon, A, where can they follow you? And B, if they want to kind of follow in your footsteps, if you've inspired anybody out there who not only wants to maybe be an American Gladiator someday, but even if they just want to get in the gym, what's your advice to them watching right now?
Yeah, so my advice to you is to, first believe in yourself and have a goal for yourself. If you want to get fit, if you want to build muscle, if you want to lose weight, if there's something that you want to do, you have to believe that you can achieve it. And then you have to create an action plan in order to do that. If you don't have an action plan, then what you can do is hire a coach like myself, where you can find me on Instagram at swolepatrol_. And I actually have been coaching and training people for, a couple of years now, quite some time. And, where I help you not only get great results, but, teach you the things that are necessary for you to not need me in the future. I think there's a lot of great trainers and great coaches out there, but if I'm not teaching you how to do this on your own so that you can teach the next person or teach your family member, then I'm not doing a great job. So
I really just wanted to hear you drop the name of your Instagram handle. Swole Patrol might be one of the greatest of all time.
I'll tell you, because now I also watch a little bit of Joey Swole as well. I think he's a fitness guy, Joey Swole, too. I love that name, Swole Patrol. That is so cool.
Funny name about Swole Patrol. I got to tell you how I got it.
Yeah.
It started in high school. My friends actually clowned me for the first Twitter name I gave myself, which was Swag Daddy 23.
I like that.
Also,
right?
Both are good.
It was Swag Daddy 23. I can't make this up. And then my boys like, yo, Yende, you can't do that. So they start throwing out names, this and that. And they're like, Yende, how about Swole Patrol? Because, you know, you're always at the gym working out. You're starting to get swollen. We always see you patrolling the hallways, trying to get people to go to the gym with you. And so I just made that my Twitter and Instagram name, and I cranked out 50 push-ups at the time when I did that. And then when I got to college football, got into a real strength and conditioning program and started putting on lean muscle. And then when I got finished with school and eventually ended up becoming a personal trainer, it kind of just became my brand, you know. I'm swole, and I patrol everyone out there, making sure we're staying healthy and fit. So if you are someone out there that's looking to get fit and looking to get great results, just go to my Instagram @swolepatrol_, and just, you know, shoot me a message or hit the link in my bio where you can sign up for online coaching.
That is incredible. My final question, you talked about something at the beginning that really hit home with me, is that this moment for you came at a time where you were pivoting and having kind of a rock bottom moment to get to this point. What would be your advice for anybody in the creative industry or someone who's doing, you know, fitness or any type of endeavor? How do they pivot properly? How do you handle those rock bottom moments? And my question is, as you look to the future, where do you see yourself growing with this? Do you want to take this to the next level, do another show, or what does your future plans look like?
I'll say that if you're someone going through a tough time, you know, maybe you hit rock bottom, always know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to, you know, believe that, you know, tough times don't last. Tough people do, and that's been something that I've lived with for an extremely long time. I have faced incredible amounts of adversity, from not making it to, you know, the NFL and having to go through that post-football depression, trying to figure out what my purpose is in life, because, you know, I've been doing football my entire life, you know, and then I did jobs that I was really great at, but I wasn't necessarily, you know, I wasn't loving it. So, you know, trying to figure that out, and then almost doing a really, you know, I almost did a really big dating show, and then I got really close to doing that, and then that didn't work out. And then, you know, my car was actually stolen a month before we did the combine for American Gladiators.
Wow.
But I still showed up as if everything was good in the hood. And, you know, I've already been through so much, and I've built up my resilience, and I know that I'm going to find a way to keep moving forward. One thing that I've learned in college that one of my coaches taught me is the FITFO mentality. It stands for figure it the F out. You can probably plug in what F stands for,
yes,
but find a solution, find a way to get it done, because once you realize that, hey, you know, obviously we're probably not going to live to 150 or 200.
Who knows?
You know, when you start looking at I mean, maybe AI, we'll see.
You're right. We're living forever now.
But you know, when you start looking at things that, hey, maybe this might last forever, maybe I need to start looking at things just a little bit differently and just find a solution, find a way to keep moving forward. So that's my advice to someone out there, and always understand it's another day in paradise, and you are truly living the dream. If you're here, you're breathing, you have an opportunity to, you know, make your life better. And I think to answer the second question, where do I see this going? Man, honestly, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity, and I think this is a really big highlight of my life. But something that I've been saying a very, very long time is that this is just the warm-up for Allende and Neon. I think that, you know, I've been through so many different things, and I've learned so much, and I've acquired so many different skills, like, you know, runway modeling down Miami Swim Week and New York Fashion Week, and, you know, playing, you know, college football in the past, and influencing on social media, and being able to, you know, do commercial work. And I would love to, you know, maybe act one day in movies, and, you know, and also create a platform to, you know, teach people about financial literacy and investing. And, you know, I have my thoughts in so many different areas. You know, I kind of like to think of myself as like a mini, you know, Dwayne Johnson, just with a full head of hair. You know? So he's such a great guy, and he's such a hard worker.
I can tell.
You see how many different things that he's able to, you know, put himself in. And I kind of see myself kind of like that. And so I use him as a source of information, a source of inspiration in my life. So.
And you are turning
really
around
cool.
and inspiring a whole new generation yourself.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We can't wait to see how far your star continues to shine. And just remember your friends here at Fox 5
please.
and back here in the DMV when you take over Hollywood and the world. Just a reminder, everyone, you can check out Neon on American Gladiators streaming on Prime right now. Tony P., how cool was that?
That was just like, I mean,
see, that's why I wanted to make sure we got that in.
We might be looking at potentially the next big star. I mean, he has that confidence. I mean, as someone who's not in the same space, but like adjacent, trying to chase my own dream, you know, I'm very transparent about that. It's nice to hear someone have that type of confidence because I've never had that kind of confidence. And I think there are times to be. Yeah, no, I think it does, and I think there are moments where you have to have that confidence. They don't always give out prizes for being too humble all the time. You have to be willing to go take.
You got to bet on yourself.
Right, and I think, and I love his just attitude about that. It is very Dwayne Johnson-esque. I like to go take some training from him.
Plus, I mean,
learn
with a smile like that.
Right, I mean, it just and that resilience, and that's the Rock story too.
Tony P., we're down to our final 9 minutes.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the other stories you have had your eye on.
Let me see if I can get this done in 7 minutes. Right? Okay. So President Trump reversed course today and extended the Iran ceasefire indefinitely, hours before we're set to expire. In a Truth Social post, President Trump said Iran's government was seriously fractured and gave Tehran more time to submit a unified peace proposal. He directed the military to continue the naval blockade of Iranian ports, and J.D. Vance's planned trip to Islamabad was postponed indefinitely after Iran refused to confirm it would send a delegation. An advisor to Iran's parliamentary speaker called the extension a ploy to buy more time for a potential surprise strike. And this also dovetails with a Pentagon intelligence assessment that is undercutting the administration's claims that Iran's military has been effectively destroyed. The Defense Intelligence Agency concluded that Iran retains significant military capabilities despite the sustained U.S. and Israeli strikes in February. The finding puts the White House in an awkward position given President Trump's repeated insistence that Iran had been militarily devastated. DNI Tulsi Gabbard has acknowledged the regime remains intact and can still threaten passage through the Strait of Hormuz. So that's one thing to look at. What does the military makeup look like in Iran? Kevin Warsh faced a fiery Senate Banking Committee hearing today in his bid to become Federal Reserve Chair. When asked whether he would be Trump's sock puppet unquote, on interest rates, Warsh said absolutely not, telling Senator Kennedy that the president never asked him to pre-commit to any overall rate decisions in this situation. The president never asked him to pre-commit to any rate hikes or decreases. He called for regime change at the Fed, including fewer meetings and a new inflation framework. But his confirmation is blocked right now by Senator Thom Tillis, who won't move the nomination until the DOJ drops its criminal investigation of Chair Jerome Powell. The DOJ announced an 11-count indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center today on wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering charges. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said the SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals between 2024 and 2023, and some affiliated with the KKK, while publicly claiming to fight those same organizations. The SPLC called the charges politically motivated and vowed it would not be intimidated into silence. Florida Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilus McCormick resigned today from Congress, especially this morning, moments before the Ethics Committee was set to determine her punishment. The committee had found her guilty of 25 violations, including allegations she funneled $5 million in COVID relief funds into her 2022 congressional campaign. She called the process a witch hunt, and she is the third House member to resign this month following Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ended the military's mandatory flu shot requirement today, citing medical autonomy and religious freedom. In a video posted to social media, he said troops are free to get the vaccine, but will not be forced to in terms of policy. Public health experts push back, warning the policy will cost readiness and that influenza spreads quickly in close quarters. The move follows the administration's earlier decision to stop recommending flu shots for children overall. Amazon launched a nationwide GLP-1 weight management program today through its primary care arm, One Medical. The program bundles doctor consultations, prescription management, and pharmacy fulfillment all in one place, with injectable treatments like Wegovy starting at $299 a month for cash-paying patients, and oral options at $149. Insured patients can access coverage starting at $25, and Amazon plans same-day delivery to about 4,500 cities by the year's end. New York Attorney General Letitia James sued Coinbase and Gemini today, calling their prediction market platforms illegal gambling operations. James said both companies allow users as young as 18 to bet on sports, elections, and entertainment events below the state's 21-year minimum. Neither company holds a state gaming license, meaning they are also sidestepping the roughly 51% gross revenue tax paid by licensed operators. Coinbase pushed back, saying the prediction markets are federally regulated, exchanges subject to federal oversight. New England Patriots coach Mike Vrabel addressed the photos of him with former athletic reporter Deanna Rossini for the first time today, calling the situation a personal and private matter. In an unscheduled press conference, Vrabel said he had already had difficult conversations with his family, the organization, and his players, and that those conversations had been positive and productive. He did not mention Rossini by name, and the NFL has confirmed it is not investigating. Rossini resigned from The Athletic on April 14th. The Devil Wears Prada 2 held its world premiere Monday night at Lincoln Center in New York, where Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci walked the red carpet together 20 years after the original. Lady Gaga and Anna Wintour were also in attendance, and the film opens in theaters on May 1st. I cannot wait to talk to some of our friends out west about the reaction and what's going on with that movie. I'm dying to see it because it is a moment we've all been waiting for. In the world of sports and quiz shows, ESPN Jeopardy is officially happening, with Monday Night Football announcer Joe Buck set to host. The sports trivia spinoff will stream on Disney Plus and Hulu, with ESPN talent competing in a tournament format for a $500,000 grand prize, benefiting their chosen charities. A premiere date has not been set yet. So, I got to tell you,
Joe Buck.
I can see it.
Now, he's got some experience, as you can see from right here. He filled in for a week.
Right.
Doing guest hosting on the OG Jeopardy back in August of 2021 after Alex Trebek died and they were going through a rotating. So he has some experience with this. Also, I just learned today there was already a sports Jeopardy spinoff that aired on Crackle from 2014 to 2016, and Dan Patrick was the host of that one.
That's a good host. He's solid.
So, you know, they have some, you know, obviously they spun off and they did like Pop Culture Jeopardy with Colin Jost. That's airing on like Prime Video.
Right, maybe
Netflix. Netflix, and that one has teams and stuff like that. So it's interesting how they're kind of branching out and kind of going down these new avenues.
Well, that's the whole industry now, right? You have the spin-offs of series going into movies, movies into series. You have parts 4 and 5 of movies coming out. There's a lot of this happening, and it's a lot of recreation of old programming. I hope to see, especially in the late night space and other game shows, maybe there is a Merv Griffin moment where there's new concepts coming out. We shall see. I hope it's not a fake set like in Seinfeld, though. That's what I just hope that's not the case.
That was one of the best episodes
ever.
of Seinfeld ever.
My father makes fun of me to this day whenever I started wanting to become a host. He's like, you should, what are you going to go in the garbage of your apartment and find a set and go do it out there? It's like, come on, man. I mean, I need a little bit of encouragement here.
Scandals and Animals.
Exactly.
It's two
Scandals and Animals. How about a co-host? I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that.
Pretend I didn't hear that. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight here on the Live Zone Primetime. I think we had a lot of new eyeballs, Tony P.
We did.
A lot of people
Thank you for joining. Please come back.
The results of Virginia's special election. Thank you for trusting us to provide your coverage for you. Shout out to Sabrina Moreno from Axios Richmond for lending her expertise, and Jim Loke for popping in, sharing some of his insight. Of course, you can stay with Fox 5 for continuing coverage. Josh Rosenthal will have updates coming up live in Fairfax right here on Fox Local at 10 and 11. And of course, Jim Loke, you heard him mention, he'll have some special coverage coming up on the Final 5 as well.
And folks, watch that show. If you're new to Fox 5, go watch the Final 5.
Virginia Congressman James Wilkinshaw also joining at 10 o'clock right here on Fox Local.
The Final 5 is the best.
It's great. It is a phenomenal show.
It is. It's a really cool concept, and it's entertaining. It's funny, a little late night element, and the political seriousness. Great show. Go check it out. I know it's a little late, But go check it out at 11:30.
Yeah, Crystal Bailey, also a little late to be joining the Zoom room. We appreciate you logging
Come back
in.
tomorrow,
We'll come
please.
back tomorrow.
Come back
anytime.
tomorrow.
We're
Talk
down to
with
our
us. We
final
love it.
45 seconds of the show.
glad you're here.
WHS also in the comment section of the Zoom room. Ask Tony P. And I'll just real quick response. What are your thoughts that the results of this referendum is nothing more than a vote against President Trump?
Oh, absolutely. I think it absolutely is. I think we're at that point now where both sides of this argument are just entrenched. It's my team versus like Red Sox versus Yankees at this point. So like, there's no wiggle room. I think there were probably some independent voters that may have voted for Spamberger that turned to the no vote, but that's why it's closer. But I think this is definitely a party line vote.
And I will not be shocked if we hear from President Trump coming up
Yeah.
shortly, whether it's on Truth Social or from the White House tomorrow. So that'll do it for us here tonight. Thank you to everyone who watched on Fox Local. Thank you to even more people who watched on Fox 5 DC's
Yes.
YouTube page. We'll do this every single night right here at 9 o'clock. Fox 5 News at 10 coming your way next.